Good morning. So here's a koan for you. There was a woman who kept the pilgrims inn at Hara under Mount Fuji. Her name is unknown, and it is not known when she was born or died. She could be anybody. She went to hear a talk by Hakuin, who said, "The pure land where everything is only mind, the Buddha of infinite light in your own body." It's like he's reading from a pamphlet or something. Once Amida appears, mountains, rivers, and earth, plants, trees, and forests all glow with a great light. Garbage trucks, political candidates. If you want to see this, just look into your own heart. Since the Pure Land is only mind, what kind of special features would it have? Since the Buddha of infinite light is your own body, how would you recognize it? When she heard this, the old woman said to herself, "This isn't so hard." So she went home and meditated day and night, asking these questions while she was awake and while she was asleep. One day, as she was washing a pot, she had a sudden breakthrough. She tossed the pot aside and rushed to see Hakuin. She said, "I've run across Amida in my own body, and everything on earth is shining with a great light. It's wonderful." She danced for joy. "Is that so?" Hakuin asked. "But what about a pile of shit? Does it shine with a great light too?" The woman ran up and slapped him, saying, "You still don't get it, you old fart." Hakuin roared with laughter. There you are. Just look into your own heart. Actually, this koan came to me a while ago. There was like I went to a retreat, and things have been pretty rough in my life leading up to that treat. Not anything like really serious, but it just things were pressing and I was irritable and I was always tired and just that way. I don't know if do other people notice that? Do you get like I'll just get a dip and then it'll feel like over a long period of time, oftentimes it's really slow, like incremental, like glacially slow. Things will just start to compress. And and somewhere in my mind there I'll start to make a list. It just happens on its own of all the things that are wrong with my life, whatever it is. Um, and it might not be something that's wrong immediately, but it could just be a worry. Oh, I'm not sure I'm making enough money. Even if I look at the numbers, they look fine. I'm not sure I'm making enough money, and I'm not sure I'm being a good enough father. I'm not sure I'm being a good enough husband. I'm not sure my son is being a good enough son either, and I'm not sure that my wife's being a good enough wife. And I'm kind of sick of my cat because he's always meowing no matter what I do, and it just goes on. You know, the political climate right now, and oh, geez, and it's just kind of like it's a small storm that builds in the background, you know, and it's such a remarkable thing how I don't even see it happening, but I can feel the winds starting to get stronger back there. I can feel the barometric pressure is, I don't know if it raises or drops with storms, but it's doing something. But there's definitely more pressure. You can feel if I'm paying attention to my body, I can notice that it starts to go like this, starts to curve inward. And at some point, there must be some threshold where I realize, oh my God, I'm in hell. This is it. I'm in hell. You know, and I might have varying degrees of awareness about being in hell. I feel like true hell in a way is not having any awareness that my heart has anything to do with hell. or that hell has anything to do with my heart. It's just all about I'm a terrible person and everyone else is a terrible person and everything's going wrong and these things need to be changed and it's just so there's a thing about I don't know, even if you're still in hell, when you start to wake up in hell, it's not quite such a problem anymore. You just go, oh shit, I'm in hell. And I noticed like in those in those periods I'll wake up a little bit and then I'll go to sleep again. I'll wake up a little bit and then I'll go to sleep again. I'll wake up like get really mad at my son or something and I'll go, well, that seemed like kind of like he was just being a kid. I'll get mad at him or something. I'll go, he was just being a kid. What was that? What was that that bothered me so much about that? And so there's like a little bit of awakening can become possible there that maybe the tiny hell I'm living in isn't all of the universe. That's just one sort of small aspect of it. And but so that was going on. It's going on for growing over a number of months, I think, and then went to a retreat. It was a relatively short retreat, and and I'm a teacher, but I didn't want to do. I felt like I just didn't have anything in me to give to anybody else, and I kind of told the leaders of the retreat, like, if you want me to do anything, I don't know. I might not. I don't feel like I have any. I don't have anything to give to anybody else right now. And they said, "Oh, that's fine. You just take the ride." And so I did. And surprisingly, I allowed myself. Something allowed me to just not be worried about that. In the past, it's something like, well, I don't know. I've got this identity to uphold to myself or others or whatever. That if I'm a leader, I should be helping out or offering or teaching or guiding or something like that. And I didn't. It was nice. And it's a kind of interesting thing. And every once in a while, something in my mind would say, shouldn't you be doing something? Shouldn't you be doing more? And then when I looked, the answer was just no. And so I just sort of fell into trusting the no and sat and spent a lot of time alone, which was good. Anyway, came back to my life. And you may know this from going to retreat or going anywhere and then coming back to your life. Nothing had changed. My son was still being a 3.5-year old, and my wife was still being her, and all the people I work with at work were still being them, and my cat was still being him. But it was not the same world that I left. Kind of a remarkable thing, isn't it? And just the spaciousness of all of it. My son could be running around and screaming and refusing to brush his teeth, and we've got to leave in 2 minutes to drive him to school, and I've got to leave on time so that I can drop him off and get him to school so that I can come back and start working on time because I've got a meeting at 8 o'clock. And but somehow that stuff just didn't arise. um, you notice that, and I think in meditation practice it was just okay, and even kind of amusing, you know. um, a sense of play could emerge in that. Suddenly, not brushing his teeth, like I could take part in the game rather than refusing the game. And everything was all right. So that's kind of the first clue that, oh, the Pure Land is not about getting everyone else to act right or making enough money or getting my back to stop hurting. I mean, that stuff might help. But, and you know this even in small ways where you're having a fight with somebody or something and you go take a walk and you come back 10 minutes later and things have shifted somehow. Right? It's not about, we've got some problem. This is an interesting thing for me. I noticed this first in video games, but it works for a lot of different things. I focus and focus on a problem and I just can't, like, then pushing into the problem is probably if pushing doesn't help, then pushing's probably not the answer. And so then I leave and I come back 30 minutes later, and then suddenly it's clear what needs to be done in the video game or the piece of music I'm working on or the conversation with my wife or whatever it is. So there's an interesting clue about, there's something going on in the heart. And so that's that thing about Hakuin says, if you want to see this, if you want to see the world shining with a great light, just look into your own heart. That's the place where the transformation occurs. That's the alchemical chamber where that stuff happens. And it's an interesting leap to go from looking out into the world like I will create the pure land by purifying everyone around me, whether that means getting them, it's usually it means getting them to see my way, see things my way. But it could be uh but it can come across as kind of um aggressive. Stop doing that. My kid, stop screaming. Everything would be much better if you'd stop screaming. Or it can go the other way. You can try to put on the bodhisattva hat and like try to save people. And you know, it was like that's that's Guan Yin's thing. She, worked so hard to empty all the hells that or she worked so hard to understand the suffering of all beings that her head exploded. And that she worked so hard to empty all the hells that her arms exploded. And so there might be another way. Mhm. And noble though those interventions may be, you know, and you see this. It's an interesting thing if you are a helping person, whether it's your profession or that's just part of your soul, is to like want to help and be involved in people. And you notice that it's not. There's a funny thing that happens there. We've got some koans about that, like stop the fire, put out the fire across the river. It's kind of one of those ones. It's about reaching out into the world to fix something. And you notice that if I'm trying to help someone else and I'm not free myself, then things can get kind of weird. You know? Then I start getting attached to what, in some way, my freedom is attached to your freedom, which is actually not untrue in a way, but it becomes bound up in a way that creates a hell realm. You know, I need you to be happy, or I need you to be stop having an addiction, or I need you to whatever it is, stop being such a jerk. And yeah, so you notice that if you're a helping person, and there's a true thing in there about having heart and having empathy and compassion for people, and we really are. Our awakening is tied together, but kind of not in that way, not in that conditional way, and so it's one of the ways we boot ourselves out of the Pure Land. I think is by placing it out there. If I think that you need to be purified before I can enter the Pure Land, then that's a problem. That'll be a problem for me. What special features? That's kind of a fun thing. I kind of like Hakuin sets it up nicely. He gives you some good questions right at the outset. Let me see here. Since the Pure Land is only mine, so he's referring to these like so you know Pure Land Buddhism. I had no idea there's so many different branches and so many different aspects to Pure Land Buddhism. Impressive. And but essentially, it's the idea that you somehow have to purify yourself or purify your heart, and then you will be, in a way, it's relying on the cycle of rebirth to attain enlightenment. You'll be reborn into the Pure Land, or you'll be reborn into, they use terms like Buddha field. So that's a very technical term, the Buddha field. The Buddha's the field of influence, the field of awakening around a Buddha, and not just any Buddha, but like there are all these different Buddhas, and it's kind of overwhelming. And I think that's Hakuin's thing is he just says, and that's our Zen thing, really. Since the Pure Land is only mind, what kind of special features would it have? He's poking a little bit. Hmm? Well, if it's only mind, what sort of special features would I have? Since the Buddha of infinite light is in your own body, how would you recognize it? And so he's always nudging people into their own lives in that way. What if we start with the assumption that the Buddha of infinite light is in your own body? What if we start with the assumption that your mind is already pure as it is? You don't have to get rid of anything or add anything, you know. And the interesting thing is, when I discover that, oh, my mind is already pure, including all the confusion or rage or selfishness or whatever, that's already blessed as it is, then the next logical step is, oh, other people's minds are already pure as they are. It's actually not, I shouldn't say logical step. It's not a logical thing. It's actually just occurs. You go, oh, mind is mind, whether it's whether I'm attaching it to you or someone else, mind is pure as it is. Hmm. What sort of special features would it have? Right now, it's like, wow, windy and rainy and cold. And nose is a little bit runny. Mm, so try this right now. Look into your own heart and just see what you notice there. What sort of special features does it have? And you can notice if the mind does that thing where it starts sorting things into categories, particularly pure, impure, awakening, delusion, good, bad. It's not that you have to stop it, just notice how it happens. Mm, so I noticed something. I've been having some back issues, which are old things. And I went to a body worker yesterday. Um, I've actually been taking pretty good care of my body since I pushed it too far and hurt it. But I thought, well, somebody else can help too. And I was really amazed. I mean, I'm always amazed when I go see a massage therapist or somebody who's hip to the body. Because it's just like just being around them, it's like being in a Buddha field, I suppose. It just sort of increase just by proximity, it increases my awareness of what's going on in my body. And just amazing to be lying on her table. And she didn't actually do a whole lot of manipulation, but just her asking me about things and placing her hands in different places and bringing my attention to all the little, I hadn't realized that there's so much going on in my body, which is kind of an obvious thing, but all these little pains and tightnesses and connections and things. There was a very, apparently I'm a pretty visual person, so I could like see this sort of, I don't know, visual representation of my body and where things hurt, and then gosh, just all the connections I noticed. Oh, this little pain in the front of my ribs is actually connected with the pain going up the left side of my spine, and She'd have me tilt a centimeter to the left and suddenly everything would change. And so that's kind of like that's a Buddha of infinite light in your own body kind of thing. That's just one way that it shows up. It's just there. It's apparent. It's already there. All we need to do is look. And and that when we wake up to things, it's not always pleasant. That's one aspect of that. Like a lot of what I was waking up to is how much pain my body is in. Really, and how much of that I just sort of carry around with me and don't pay attention to. And you might notice this if you've been around for a while, is that waking up is not always necessarily pleasant because in a way you're just becoming aware of what you have been shutting out. And so if you've been shutting out joy, then it might be really wonderful because finally allow yourself to have joy. You've been shutting out grief or something or rage, or and sometimes that's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. And so, yeah, I notice that a lot when I'm working with people that somebody who's always really calm will become after some months will start to feel like rage. And I'm not trying to be clever when I say that seems really promising. Usually their reaction is, "What do you mean?" I like I started doing this work to get more happy. Well, you know, I don't know. If happiness is there for you, it will come. But in the project of freedom, we just start to include more. We open the field of possibility to include more of what's there. And sometimes what we include more of is kind of ugly. Mm, looks kind of ugly. And so one of the basic move in practice is, can I turn toward that? I don't know how many times if you've been around PZI for 5 minutes, you probably heard that 1,000 times already. Just turn toward it. Just turn toward it. Just turn toward it. Just look into your own heart. Just look into your own heart. Just look into your own heart. And you can kind of tell when you're like turning toward it or looking into your own heart doesn't mean figuring it out. It doesn't mean mastering it. It doesn't mean getting somebody to agree or disagree with you about it. I'm really a terrible person, right? Or whatever it is. I'm really waking up, right? That's kind of the great thing about the innkeeper. She runs up to Hakuin and just like, she got it. She's there. And he tries to test her on it. She's goes, I don't need your approval. I've got it. I'm there. Yeah, yeah, kind of a fun thing. I've run into Amida in my own body, and everything on earth is shining with a great light. It's wonderful. And Hakuin's kind of pulling from this image, like he's doing this great thing where he's twisting the Pure Land images and using them for Zen. Once Amida appears, mountains, rivers, and earth, plants, trees, and forests all glow with a great light. So it's kind of he's having a bit of fun, I think, with all of our ideas about what will the Pure Land be like when I get there? What will enlightenment be like when I get there? I'll just be infinitely compassionate and or whatever the thing is. I'll always stand up for myself or whatever your dream is of how you ought to be different. It's kind of a fun thing. Yeah, the concept of enlightenment or awakening or whatever provides a pretty good projection screen for all that stuff. Yeah. All the things I think I'm not already that I ought to be, whatever. And it's a funny thing because like I came back from this retreat and I felt, wow, I feel really free. This is nice. I haven't felt like this in a long time. And it didn't mean that I didn't still get pissed off. was a great thing, or sad, or I didn't still have pain in my back or my neck or whatever. Um, but somehow my relationship to it had changed. Whatever shows up, it's just already pure. I'm not blocking it. Just look into your own heart. So for me, one of the features that the Pure Land has is the things just come to us. They just show up, and we open the door for them, and they come in, and like that. Then also sometimes things show up and we don't open the door because that's not um, that's not the right thing in a way. I think that's another piece of it for me, is that there's a the prajna, like a discernment thing about um, like being awake or at home in the world or in the Pure Land or whatever doesn't just mean that I open myself up to everything. It's a strange thing to say after I just talked about opening yourself up to everything, but there is a real like there are truly harmful things out there. No shit. But um, I don't think there's anything in Zen that says that letting yourself be a doormat or be harmed by others or harming yourself in any way, or you know, is has anything to do with awakening. Self abuse, shame, that stuff is particularly helpful. That might be the path that we have to tread to get to awakening because of karma, or if you're like me, you just have to suffer a certain amount before before you're willing to start opening up. Usually quite a lot, but that's an interesting thing that I don't know, that I was surprised to notice. um, Alison Atwell said this great thing, which I think was maybe the beginning of really noticing this for me, which is just, she said, if it diminishes you, it is not love. When she was speaking about something pretty specific, but it's one of those things that really just, wow, that's just one of those true things. If it diminishes me, if it requires me to be harmed in some way, that's not love. It's not awakening. That's something else. That's some sort of drama cycle or something that I'm stuck in. And so there's your paradox for the day, in case you wanted a paradox. Um, but there's something else about it's it becomes less about me and you and who's harming who or who's benefiting who, or and it just becomes clear that there are certain things that are harmful to the body of reality, that go against the opening of the body of reality. And for example, me being generous when I really don't feel generous. I mean, actually, it's pretty kind of obvious. Anything that goes against reality is harmful to the opening of the body of reality. Is something, like if I just feel so tired and somebody asks something of me, and the first answer that pops into my heart is absolutely not. I need to rest. But I go, oh, okay, well, sure, I can do that for you. Like just in some way harmed, not just myself, but has sort of harmed the entire field of reality by going against it, by not respecting it. And we get a pass on all those things when we do it unconsciously because we're just not attuned. I harm the body of reality daily probably in each moment in some way. That we can get more attuned to that, and then it becomes less personal. It's less of a thing about oh, I should be doing more for others, or people should be doing more for me. And it's just, well, but what's available is what's available. And I notice being in the Pure Land doesn't require me to sacrifice anything of myself, strangely enough. Actually, I can survive, and everyone else can survive just on what's provided, what's already given, before the ideas about I should be more generous, I should be more kind, I should lose weight, I should whatever the thing is. It's enough. I mean, that's an easy test, right? You just look and you go, is right now enough? And if something in you says no, then well, ask for evidence. What's the evidence that right now is not enough? I don't know. I'm just here. So, I would like to hear from some of you if you're up for it. And a few questions you can consider if you like are the questions that Hakuin gives. He's like, you can tell he's skilled at running a koan group because he's got questions. Since the Pure Land is only mind, what kind of special features would it have? What sort of special features does the Pure Land have for you? Or what sort of special features do you imagine it would have? Are you expecting it would have? Since the Buddha of infinite light is your own body, how would you recognize it? Kevin, tell us something. Mm.
Good morning, everybody. So I have a slight divergence for you that is an attempt to honestly answer that question. When did you first, it's two parts. The first thing is, when did you first sit at St. Dorothy's Rest? Because I think that was your introduction to the group. And then the
Oh,
second is, in Zen we're instructed, a given instruction is straight back, soft belly. I have heard the instruction for over 35 years. Look inside your heart. I have no idea what that means. I have none. I've had a lot of therapy. I've sat more than many of you. And I am tired of pretending that I know what people talk about, and whether it's a politician or a Zen teacher. And so, when were you first at St. Dorothy's Rest? And what do you mean with the instruction, look inside your heart? Because I know what a metaphor is. I'm a sophisticated guy. I'm very worldly, long-time sitter, but I have no idea what you mean. Thank you. Thanks for
yeah,
listening.
sure. Yeah. First time I stayed at St. Dorothy's was probably 2000 and
Ballpark.
two. Yeah, I'm like, I'm trying to get to the ballpark.
Ballpark. Like 2003,
I can't even see the
2001.
parking lot right now.
All right.
2006?
Okay.
Is that possible? There you go.
Sure.
That's within the right decade, I can tell you that. Look into your own heart. Oh, that's a great question. I'll tell you what I see when I do that. And it's actually kind of like it takes me back to like the very first thing I learned in just like Vipassana mindfulness stuff, which is just notice everything that's appearing in the universe. I feel my own body, the sensations in my own body. I notice the thoughts that are running through my mind, hear the sounds, and see what I'm seeing. I suppose, like at a technical level, it's just attending to my senses.
Mm.
And what I notice is, like, it's actually that Dogen instruction to, I can't remember the whole thing, but oh, the study of Zen is the study of the self. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. Um, the study of this, no, shit. Hang on, let me
You're
look
almost
it up.
there. You're almost there.
Do you know it? Yeah, give it to us.
No, it's been years since I've quoted. You're doing a fine job.
Oh, thanks.
But but again, the issue, in other words, if tend to your awareness is look inside your heart, I get that. But then this invocation of look inside your heart seems like a very specific direction that I've never known what's meant in the literature or in the meditation instruction. So it's, yeah. Baffled?
Um, I would say it's not I'm looking for that quote, but I can't find it. But the part I was looking for is to study the self is to forget the self. To forget
Mm,
the self is to be awakened by the 10,000 things. And I would say for me, look inside your own heart is not it's not it's not a technique. It's not an instruction. It's
mm.
just a description of what's happening, actually. So actually right now you're already looking inside your own heart, which, might not be terribly helpful as an instruction, but and so I would say that's the thing, actually. Yeah.
Thank you. It's
Yeah,
great.
sure. Thanks for asking. Good question. Mm. Anyone else? We're taking, yeah, Eileen.
Okay, so like what is the motivation in what I do? Like how am I focused on outside myself? Because it seems like Buddhism is really about tending to your own fire. And when we look at the world a certain way, if we go back to what our thoughts are, and the thought and the heart are very intertwined. And so I just want to throw that in the pot. I don't know if that helps. And the heart is just a catch-all term of how we look at the mind in a way, because the mind and the emotions are so intertwined. So I don't know if that was clear, but that's what I thought.
Well, what's it like for you? Can you describe what it's like for you, like rather than a technical explanation?
Well, I notice it's easy for me to go astray and focus on other things outside myself, like wanting things to be different, which Trumpa, who was my teacher, would say is an act of aggression. So I would say I'm very idealistically, I'm prone to idealism and aggression of wanting things to be different than they are, and then working with what is. So how does that come up? Like if I want to correct someone or like give someone unsolicited advice, something like that, so not cool. But I do sometimes do that. And I watch myself do it and get into trouble doing that. And yeah.
What does it feel like when you're doing that? Like, what is your internal experience when you are giving someone unsolicited advice, for example?
Mm, it's can become like an addiction really when you want the world to be different than what it is.
Well,
The-
that's not quite, but I'm going to push you on this because I think, like, but what is the internal experience in the moment when you are giving somebody unsolicited
There's
advice?
an urgency, like the world's burning feeling kind of thing. And feeling a sense of maybe panic, like, oh, wait, do you notice this? Or like people idle their cars. I have like a vendetta against people who just sit in their car and idle, things like that. And it was certainly going to get me in trouble when I start going down that road. Um, so a
I,
restlessness, I guess.
I like that. Yeah, that to me, that the sort of regression where then we got to your heart, which is what it's like is a feeling of urgency and something needs to be done. And then I like, as you're talking about it, I can feel it. Oh, yeah, that's what it's like to be. And so, in a way, looking into your own heart for me, I know this is like I'm actually inside myself in an experience rather than, like you said, that act of aggression or whatever, but I'm leaving myself. I'm no longer inside myself when I'm going out into the world to fix something. And something gets lost there for me. And like you said, then I'm in trouble. Then I'm like reaching too far over the edge of the boat and yeah, that's nice. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Barbara, what do you got for us?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Kevin for the question about looking inside your heart, because even when you were talking about that earlier, it's always a question. That direction always makes me sort of close off instead of open up. But recently I've been working very deeply with the concept of conscious companionship, and the idea of conscious companionship first with myself, and then because as far as I'm concerned, you have to do it, whatever you're doing, you have to do it with yourself first, the inner part, and then putting it out into the world and expanding it out into the world. And as soon as I started working with the idea of being consciously a companion of myself, It's like my heart opened, the boundaries and the walls that I have put up, and you know, especially in the last few years that we've all put up, you know, these separations because of COVID, because of all the things that are going on. It's like everything's softening and dissolving, and my connection with my heart did the same thing. So it's that being conscious about being a companion to my heart, rather, and a companion to myself, means that then I can see what's going on inside there instead of being separated from it.
Nice, thank you.
You're welcome.
Isn't it amazing? Like we've all got our own words and images to describe that. It's like that's the beauty of the sort of the variety of Dharma and the way that it's expressed in the world.
Yeah, some words work, some phrases, some terms, and then it just takes one person's way of looking at it, and it opens for me, and it opens for other people maybe, but not in the same way, you know. So yes,
Mm,
so thank you.
nice. Very good. You made it. You made it to the Pure Land. You can relax now. Your journey is at an end.